Harriet Beecher Stowe's compassion helped save the soul of America. Welcome to day number 7 of 25 attributes of Christ. Today we're going to talk about the attribute of compassion. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow this page. Compassion is defined as the feeling or emotion when a person is moved by the suffering or distress of another and by the desire to relieve it. In the scriptures, the Lord Jesus Christ shows compassion when he feeds the 5,000 who are hungry. He also shows compassion to Mary following the death of Lazarus. When Jesus, therefore, saw her weeping, and the Jews also weeping which came with her, he groaned in the spirit and was troubled. And then in verse 35, it says, Jesus wept. Why would God himself weep, especially knowing that he is about to raise Lazarus from the dead? I believe it's because he was showing compassion for Mary and the others who were mourning the death of their friend Lazarus. Compassion, at its Latin root, actually means to suffer with. And in this verse, the Lord is suffering with those who are mourning Lazarus' passing. So what examples are there of compassion in American history? One example that may not be the first thing to come to mind, but which I think encapsulates this idea perfectly, is that of Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet Beecher Stowe was an American author and abolitionist just prior to the Civil War who wrote the book Uncle Tom's Cabin. Having been raised on the border of a slave state by a religious father who taught against slavery, Harriet had an intense desire to represent the experience and feelings of the slaves that she knew. And in 1850, after Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act, which required even free states to return escaped slaves back to the South, Harriet had to do something. Even in the midst of motherhood, and in spite of prejudice that was levied against her because of her being a woman, Harriet Beecher Stowe used her compassion to write a book that eventually led to the end of slavery in America. Funny enough, when Abraham Lincoln first met Harriet, he reportedly said, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." She contributed in a major way to the end of slavery. Uncle Tom's Cabin flipped racial profiles of the time on their head by showing the humanity behind these enslaved people. And as people across America and the world read Harriet Beecher Stowe's writing, they grew in compassion for the enslaved people in America. And that compassion helped pave the way to freedom. Even today, Uncle Tom's Cabin is required reading in many classrooms and is considered one of the premier examples of how storytelling can lead to social reform. The compassion demonstrated by both Jesus and Harriet were born of a deeper understanding and awareness of the suffering and plight of other people. When we as a people seek a greater understanding of others, we can also develop this culture of compassion. That compassion will not only help us make better decisions and judgments, but it will also soften our language and moderate extremism. We as a nation seek to develop a culture of compassion so that we are better qualified for the Lord's favor. My name is Logan, and this is American Providence.